Hey everybody, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how you crochet this absolutely stunning puff stitch mile a minute scarf. If you love all things crochet and are passionate about the craft, then you have definitely come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my future crochet videos. So before I leap into the tutorial, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about this scarf on my table. Now, for this scarf, I used a 4.5mm crochet hook and 2 balls of the King Cole Beaches in the colorway Beach Melba. I've linked to this in the description box below should you be interested in recreating this exact scarf. Now my puff sections are 160 puffs long and I've used 5 of them. Putting fringing on the end like I have is entirely optional. You could leave these bits off and join it as an infinity cowl. You can of course make it as wide or as short or as long or as skinny as you so wish. So I hope that answers a couple of your initial questions that you're going to have about this scarf on my table. I am utterly obsessed by this pattern and the yarn. I think it's worked up so beautifully and I really hope you enjoy making it too. All right, let's jump straight into how you too can make a puff stitch mile a minute scarf. So to begin, pop a slip knot on your hook. And we're going to chain 5. Then place your hook into that very first chain you made and do a slip stitch to join. So just grab that yarn and pull it through the chain and through the loop on your hook to create yourself a little circle. Now chain 2. And we're going to work a puff stitch into this circle. Now, as a side note, for your puff stitches, you are free to make your puff stitches however you like making your puff stitches. Fat ones, skinny ones, the amount of yarn overs is all entirely personal preference. But for mine, I yarned over, go into that center ring, pull up a loop once, repeat that again, twice, and again, 3 times, and then because I like my puffs generous, 1 more time. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops. Then chain 1 to lock that puff in place. Chain 3. And place another puff stitch into this chain 5 ring. Chain 1 to lock it in place. And that's your first little puff V. Now turn your work and slip stitch into this chain 3 space. Chain 2, puff stitch into this chain 3 space, always remember to chain 1 to lock it into position, chain 3, and pop another puff stitch into that same chain 3 space. Chain 1 to lock it in place, turn your work and slip stitch back into that chain 3 space. So you can see I have already built 2 rows of puff stitches. For my scarf, I did 160 of these, but for this small sample, I'm just going to go ahead and make a tiny little sample of 10 rows of puff stitches. So you just want to keep repeating this: chain 2, puff stitch, chain 3, puff stitch into that chain 3 space, turn your work and slip stitch back in, and repeat for as long as you want your scarf to be. So I'll keep going and I will meet you back when I have 10 rows of puff stitches. So that's my 10th row complete. Hopefully you guys will have much longer sections than I have. And when you have finished the amount of rows that you want, you're going to go ahead and turn and slip stitch into that chain 3 space, just as you have been. Now chain 1 and put 2 single crochets into this chain 3 space. That's 1, that's 2. Now chain 7. And we're going to work down the side of this puff section. So rotate your work 90 degrees and slip stitch in between your puff stitches. Just a little slip stitch. Chain 7. Slip stitch in between your puff stitches. Repeat this all the way down the side of your puff strip. Once you've reached your last set of puff stitches, you've done your final slip stitch, chain 7, and place 2 single crochets into that original chain 5 loop where you started. You can also crochet over your tail from that. So pop 2 single crochets in the bottom there, chain 7, rotate your work again and work back up this other side, slip stitching in between your puffs and then chaining 7. Once you reach your last set of puffs, slip stitch in between as you have been doing, chain 7, and then we're going to slip stitch to join to the very first single crochet of this chain round. So just pop your hook in, slip stitch to join, chain 1. It's good timing because I've got a knot in my yarn. And snip your yarn. Now if you are going to put fringing on the end, leave yourself a nice long length because you can then incorporate that into the fringe. So that is your first strip done. If I pull out these chain sections, that's your first strip done. Now for your second and any subsequent strips, they'll be done join as you go. So go ahead and create another puff strip. Make sure it is exactly the same number as your original one. So I'm going to go ahead and whiz up another length of 10. And through the magic of editing, I have done my next strip of 10. Now, before I continue, I just want to show you, do not be alarmed if your new puff strip is not as long as your second puff strip. This is because these slip stitches that you do along the side and the single crochet at the bottom stretch it all out a little bit longer. So don't panic. Don't panic if you've got varying lengths. As long as you've got the exact same amount of puff stitches, that is all that matters. So to join your new puff strip to the one you just made, turn, slip stitch into that chain 3 space just as before, chain 1, and pop 2 single crochet into that chain 3 space. Now you want your first strip to be facing the same way up as your second strip before you join it. Now the way you can tell that is if you are a right-handed crocheter, this slip stitch where you finished the first section, first strip, will be on the right hand side. So you always are working in that direction if you're right-handed. So that's just a little tip to make sure. If that is on the left hand side, then you need to flip it back, unless you're left-handed, of course. But you want this to be, that shows you this is the right way up. So lay your first strip down. Sometimes I find it's easier to pop it horizontally. You've got your 2 single crochet. Now instead of chaining 7, we're going to chain 3. Then join with a slip stitch to the corresponding loop, just picking it up, and just pop a slip stitch into that chain 7 loop. Now chain 3 again and slip stitch in between your puffs. Chain 3, slip stitch into the next corresponding loop, chain 3, and slip stitch in between your puffs. You'll be joining them as you go. So keep doing that all the way down the row. Chain 3, slip stitch to the corresponding chain loop, chain 3, slip stitch in between your puffs. Once you reach your last set of puffs, chain 3, slip stitch to that final corresponding chain loop, chain 3, then in your chain 5 loop right at the start, place 2 single crochet stitches. You'll have joined all the way down the middle. And now up the other side, we return to doing chain 7 slip stitch, chain 7 slip stitch, all the way back up to the top. Just as before, slip stitch in between your final set of puffs, chain 7, slip stitch to that very first single crochet of this chain round, chain 1, leave a decent long length if you're going to add fringing, pull it through, pull it tight, and that should be your second strip. Put it this way, joined. You'll also see now they are the same length as each other. So keep going for as wide as you want your scarf to be. Create a new puff strip, then join it down one side and come back up the other, and just keep going. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you're going to go on to make yourselves some beautiful long puff stitch mile a minute scarves. I thoroughly enjoyed making this. Now, don't be fooled by the mile a minute name. It was not a mile a minute for me. It's much more of a labour of love. But I think the final product is so worth it. And I was suitably impressed that it only took 2 balls of the Beaches double knit yarn, because I thought this was going to be much more of a yarn eater than it actually turned out to be. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this puff stitch mile a minute scarf. Is it something that you're tempted to try, or is it not really your cup of tea? I love hearing from you guys, so definitely shout down below and know that I read every single comment. Even if I don't get a chance to actually respond to you, please know I have definitely read it. So until next time, happy crocheting!